Hey guys, Daniel Master 87 here, and today I'm going to be talking about the recent Q&A that the devs did for this game. I know I'm a few days late, but whatever. But let's go ahead and get started. The first thing I'll say is the devs are guilty of many things. You can say that they're slow at making any amount of changes to the game, that they're not responsive to the community, yada yada yada. But I will not stand for this thing that people have been saying where the devs were somehow acting smug or rude during this Q&A, because that's simply not the case. And even if it was, you're making way too much of a big deal out of it than it really is. Like, out of everything they said, that's the aspect that people are focusing on. It's like, get over yourselves. I think the reason that these devs aren't pressured as much as they should be is because people just focus on stupid, meaningless crap like that instead of the real issues. They're just wasting their energy on stuff that's not gonna matter. But as to what the devs actually said, new grade rewards. You will be getting 1 million BP if you hit Iridescent 1 with one roll, and the same amount if you hit Iridescent 1 with the other roll, which means you'll be getting 2 million BP max if you hit Iridescent 1 on both Killer and Survivor. And that's going to be great because it's way more blood points than we were getting before. So that's one of the few actual good things that we got from this Q&A, them showing that off. We also got Circle of Healing nerfed. It's just going to be 75% healing speed boost instead of 100%. I don't think this is gonna be far enough. I think 75 is still a high number, and there's a further question that I'm just gonna go ahead and say now what their answer was, because someone asked, are there going to be any changes to how Boon Totems work, and they basically said no, they're not, which I wasn't really bringing that up as an issue for Boon Totems. I mean, they're kind of annoying in concept, like you just set up a boon on a totem somewhere and the killer either has to hear it and snuff it out and waste time, or he just has to deal with it, and those are his only two options, which is a lose-lose. So yeah, now that I think about it, I do have a problem with how boons fundamentally are. They're like hexes, but they can be relit over and over again. I think if they just removed that aspect of them, I'd be happy. But yeah, a change to how boons work besides that, probably not needed. Circle of Healing is the biggest thing. Like, who just brings Shadow Step? Who just brings Exponential? It's all about that Circle of Healing at high level. They have no plans to make DS base kit, but the question was, will we all be making BT or DS base kit? And all they had to say was, there are no plans to make DS base kit. So that's a small indicator that they're thinking about making something like a Borrowed Time base kit, and I really see that as problematic because of endgame. Anytime you hook a survivor and they're not dead on hook and the gates are 99, the survivors can basically guarantee that that person gets out, because they unhook with BT. Even if you down them through their sprint burst that you give them for free, if you hit them with BT, or if you wait out BT and then down them, they're still possibly going to have DS, so you're screwed, like, no matter what you do at that point, because they're going to open the gate and the guy's going to crawl out. And if you try and stop him from crawling out by picking him up, then he's just going to DS you and get out regardless. I really hate those scenarios, and it's unfortunate that the devs really aren't even talking about that throughout all of this Q&A stream that they did. Is there going to be cross progression for, they said, Switch and other consoles? We're working on it. That's their answer for like half the freaking questions they were asked. We're working on it. Though I do understand it's not completely their fault that Sony or whichever game company it is doesn't want them to have cross progression on the game for some reason. I don't know what those companies' prejudices against Dead by Daylight having cross progression, because you know Fortnite and stuff like that have cross progression. I just wish that the devs never planted that thought in our head that, oh, there could be cross progression to the game. And it's like, no, only between Windows and freaking Mac or whatever it was. Something dumb like that. The nature of Boon's not getting changes, as I said. Dead hard hit validation for killer powers. Is there going to be a fix specifically for that? And they say, well, it's complicated, but we're definitely looking at that. So another working on it type of answer. You know, this validation thing wouldn't keep getting brought up if they would actually make a good validation system that doesn't favor the survivors 95% of the time. But that's just me. Is Dead Hard getting reworked? They pretty much dodged the question, said, we want it to... I can't even remember what they said. They pretty much just dodged the question. Because they're like... comparing it to fighting games and other stuff where it's like, if you dodge a hit and then the server has to register it precisely, then you get stuff that looks weird or whatever. But overall, they just say they're working on it. I think Ott said to them, are there any plans to make QOL changes like streamer mode, perk loadout saving, more custom game settings, anything like that? All they had to say was some are coming sooner rather than later. I think the most obvious freaking stuff is basically everything that Ott's pointed out right there. Streamer mode to stop streamers from getting sniped or having to put up a special screen on their streams just to avoid getting sniped. Why have you not put that in the game yet? Perk loadout saving, why do we not have that yet? It doesn't need to be like, oh, I need 100 different perk loadouts for each killer. No, we just, like 1 or 3 will do. I don't know how complicated that is, but it doesn't seem that complicated to me. I mean, even Clash Royale has their different deck slots where you have your deck saved so that you can switch back to it anytime. And then more custom game settings, yes. I would actually like to see more spectators. It's kind of stupid that in a custom game where you're playing outside the normal rules of the game sometimes, where you can spectate the killer and all of that, why is there only 1 spectator? Why can't there be like 2 or 3? It makes no sense to me. They asked about the early game mechanic that the devs talked about one time, and they had to say that they've pretty much dropped the idea because in their play testing then it wasn't enjoyable or fun or whatever. Well, I'm doubting that you allowed that play testing to happen with the community. They probably just play test a lot of the stuff themselves and say, oh, I personally don't like it, and so we're just gonna call this a day, even though everyone's requested this type of stuff. Like, it's a complete disconnect. And when someone said, could you improve the MMR system to reflect more on skill, then the dev just went on a tirade about how kills and escapes must equate to skill, and it's like, no, that's completely wrong, because he like made some comparisons to hockey, which isn't even related. He said stuff like hooks lead to kills, and so the kills are indicative of the killer's skill, and surviving is always indicative of how well the survivor played. Basically saying, like, if you didn't get that many kills, or if you didn't survive as the survivor, then did you really play that game that well? Like, bruh. Because literally anyone can pick up Leatherface, down one guy, hook him, and then that guy's guaranteed dead. But apparently that counts as the survivor playing bad. We just want to avoid scenarios like that. We're not saying you have to make the most complex MMR system in the world that measures every single thing that happens in a match, but we're literally just asking, like, factor hooks into that, factor like how long a survivor ran the killer, just one or two aspects like that added into the system on top of just kills and escape, and you'd have like a way better MMR system. I mean, I don't understand how that's complicated to understand. But they are saying that they're working on improving the MMR system. Again, we're working on it. That's their answer for like every single question. Is 60 FPS coming to last gen consoles? They pretty much promised this at some point. It's a broken promise. They say they're working on it, and they're claiming that they're focusing on optimization when we're not even getting that a lot of the time, so it's like, even that's a lie. Are they going to reduce the grind somehow? I'm guessing this has to do with the blood web and stuff like that. They said they're working on dramatic improvements. So again, working on it. And I'll believe it when I see it, because the grind on this game is freaking atrocious. Especially because of the next question that they didn't have a good answer to. Are perk tiers being removed? They have no plans to do it. Why not? Why can't you just make one version of a perk instead of making 3? Wouldn't that reduce the grind? And then they claim that removing the perk tiers would only delay the grind problem, but not solve it. And it's like, no, it would solve it. Because right now, I think there was 191 perks in the game, something like that. And we have to collect them 3 times just to get everything on one character. Like, not even counting prestige. Or multiple characters. And that's gonna cost you like, what, 3 million BP minimum? So it's a big problem that they don't have a good solution to. The most obvious solution would be removing perk tiers. Why do we need freaking tiers and stuff? The whole point, I've heard, that Visionary has a cooldown despite its super insignificant and mediocre ability, is because they needed some kind of variant with the perks description so that they could add perk tiers to it. And I think that kind of highlights like the stupidity of having perk tiers, because it's like you have them just to have them. It's not adding any sense of progression or creativity to your game. It's just there to freaking annoy the players. They also showed the killer kill rates and the killer pick rates. Noticing that some killers, like which are really not played that much, like Hag and Pinhead and stuff like that, actually have a pretty high kill rate. But I just don't think that you can just look at that and say that that's the reality of the game, because according to these stats, Pinhead has a 58.62 kill rate, and he's only picked 2% of the time out of all the killers. therefore he must be OP and needs to be nerfed, right? I swear to God, that's the kind of data they use to justify nerfing like all of his decent add-ons. And this data, it's only from December 16th to January 16th. So wouldn't that have been skewed a little bit by the snowmans and the stupid Christmas event where survivors could literally jump in them and take an extra hit for free and get a sprint burst afterwards? And it's saying stuff like Freddy freaking third placed for the highest kill rate, 57.19%. No one freaking plays that killer anymore. The people who die to him are freaking weak survivors. And Pig is like the 5th highest kill rate. Just all this crazy stuff. Nurse is the lowest kill rate killer, of course, because she's hard as heck to play. But it just goes to show you can't base everything off of stats, because it's completely laughable. Like if you were to build a tier list off of just the kill rate stats right there, it would look crazy. Like someone who's never played this game would make it. Are they going to make a match replay system? It's too technical. Which, to be fair, I agree with the point they bring up, which is the game would have had to be made from the ground up with that idea in tow. Like, if you wanted a replay feature, they would have had to come up with that idea when they first created the game, and they did not have that idea. So, at this point in the design process, it's way too hard to bring something in like that out of the blue. But maybe like a replay for just you or something would be great. I mean, I don't know. They are going to be updating Ghostface and Legion. Those are the next killers that they've confirmed that they're working on. I don't know if that means a complete rework or just like a crazy add-on pass or what. But they say that they have to do lots of research whenever they're doing these killer changes. You can just look at high-level play, like True Talent's videos and stuff like that, to find what the heck is going on with this game. You see how, like, certain killers never see play, and how certain survivor perks are always ran, stuff like that. It shouldn't be complicated to see what killers have what problems and why. And those two killers, Ghostface and Legion, they are for sure the next killers to be updated, so they can guarantee us that. But other than that, they can just tell us we're working on it in regards to Ghostface and Legion. They also announced the Chinese New Year event. It's like the Year of the Tiger or whatever. Don't care much about that. Practice mode against bots, is that being added? They say it would take a large amount of work to do that, despite, you know, bots being in the tutorial, even though you can only play as... That's another thing that sucks about the tutorial matches you can play. You can only play as and against Trapper, I believe. I've never played those practice things myself, or I might have done it once for the BP. But practice matches against computers, that would definitely help out new players a lot, so that they can actually test out the killer's power and stuff like that. The devs came at it like we're asking for them to make like bots that are tailored to our skill or something. It's like, no, we don't need gods as these freaking bots. We just need them to do gens, run, and save each other off the hook. That's all they need to do. But they're acting like we're asking of some complicated thing, and it's not. When a survivor DCs, can a bot replace them? Their answer was no. And they like did some like worst possible example type of stuff, saying like the bots will just be crouching towards you with urban evasion as they go to unhook you. And it's like if you designed actual good bots, they wouldn't do stuff like that. And they're citing the one good point that they had against it was because they can't make the bot just a god at the game. They have to limit it somehow so that it's not like a competitive player just joined in place of that baby rage quitter. Wait. They said that if there's a bot and they play dumb, which is what you'd kind of want, is that if you had pop or something, that dumb survivor bot would just give you free pops and stuff like that. So it would kind of hurt the team rather than help it. But honestly, a lot of the time, the survivor DCs, it's because they would have given you a pop by you hooking them, so it's basically setting the game to the way that it was meant to be. But next question is, I don't know why they jumped to year 7. Would year 7 focus more on game health? And it's like, now I have a lot to say about that topic on another video I'm planning to make, but it's like, stop lowering your expectations so much for these devs. Like, y'all keep giving them the option to focus on game health or new content. They should be able to do both. That's what I expect of them. And that's what they said in response to that they want to do game health and new content. That we can agree with. But we don't seem to be getting either of those a lot of the times. Like, your game's in a freaking terrible state, and content is light sometimes, like All Kill not getting a new map, Hellraiser Chapter not getting a new map, Hour of the Witch, so on and so forth. Will there be more patches like 5.3.0? I can't remember exactly what update that was, but I think it was one of the big ones where it had like a bunch of changes that people liked and stuff. The devs say large patches like that are hard to make, quote unquote. I don't think they are. I think that's when they actually started working hard and started doing stuff at the speed that we expect. But they said don't expect to see large patches like that often. They didn't say it's never going to happen again, but don't see it often. So, kind of a crappy answer. Will Survivor spawns and Hex spawns be improved? We're working on it. Okay. Will there be a new roadmap for upcoming features or whatever? I don't really ask that of them. It's just like, whatever y'all got, give it to me. But I expect some stuff at least. And they say that not likely that they'll have a road map planned out for this year, but for us to keep an eye out. Any acknowledgement of the cheater issue, and they kind of dodged this question. All we wanted to ask of them is that they acknowledge the fact that there's a bunch of cheaters in the game doing hacks and stuff. And so they go on a rant about how to combat hacking, and that if they are silent on the issue, then it's better, because if they acknowledge and do an announcement that they're working against the hackers, then they'll say stuff like, oh, we need to improve our hacks and try to get into this area again. It's like somehow saying that being silent on the issue will stop the hackers. Although they did say that through that silence they're working to try and fix the thing that the hackers are exploiting. And related to that question, the next question says, is there going to be a new anti-cheat system? They said they'll make improvements, but no new cheat system. Are there any plans to slow gens, especially in the early game? Like, if you had to run around and collect tools or something to start working on the gens, of course they say it wasn't fun and it wasn't enjoyable from our playtests. And it's like, well, y'all don't play at a high level, so of course you'd say that. And slowdown is being talked about though, and they plan to say something on that soon. any visual reworks for older Moris. They want to do that, but there's no timeline on that, so they'll get around to it. Someone asked, is Myers getting any changes? They have no plans right now to change Myers. And then they also say a side note that changing one killer is only changing 1/26th of the game. And it's like, no, it seems to be a bit more impactful than that. So they try to make small changes on multiple killers instead of just focusing on one, which take and give there, whether that's a fair answer or just them. Anyway, that's why they try to focus on they're focusing on Legion and Ghostface together, they say. They're taking a look at face camping because people were complaining about that. If you do something where the survivors can completely trump face camping, then you will ruin this game for killers, because then they won't even be able to secure one kill by playing lame, quote unquote. So I think that's a bad idea that they're taking a look into face camping. Like, the one thing I disagree with on the killer side is Leatherface being able to just down someone once and be like, oh, I guarantee that you die because I can just chainsaw anyone that comes up to save you, and then also down you after that, even through BT. But every other killer that just has to M1 them, the situation is not cool. Why nerf add-ons for unpopular and weak killers? Why do y'all do that? And of course, we're taking different levels of skill into account, is basically what they're saying. So basically balancing for casuals and stuff, which is probably why, again, Pinhead, freaking joke of a killer, got a ton of his add-ons nerfed a while back. Probably because they were looking at his kill rate, because he probably kills a lot of casual survivors who don't even know how to play against him. And this part made me mad. They're claiming that twins are a kill rate monster at high MMR. And that when they use certain add-ons that they're boosting the kill rate beyond what they want. And that's just a load of crap, because the twins are not that strong. I don't know why people keep saying they are. The Circle of Healing, Unbreakable, Boon Exponential, freaking destroy this killer, even just having one of those, not even all of those. And so they're kind of using that as an explanation for nerfing some of their add-ons recently. And they're like, we did buff some of their add-ons recently, remember Iridescent Pendant? And it's like, that's a freaking joke. They do this every time. They buff all of the significant killer add-ons that a killer has, and then did I say buff? Yeah, they nerf a bunch of the good killers add-ons, and then they buff the ones that are gonna be useless no matter what, and that's exactly what they do with that. And they also say that they have limited bandwidth for the dev team, so they only have limited time to work on stuff, which is why they make numbers changes on a lot of the stuff instead of comprehensive changes to like changing an add-on completely and stuff. But that's not an excuse, because whether it's Iridescent Pendant or Toy Sword, which they nerfed, even though it was one of Twin's better add-ons and one that they pretty much need, those are both numbers changes that they did. So they're kind of like giving us a reason that counters their own argument. Is there any new game modes being planned? And they said they are looking forward to doing something while not hindering the matchmaking, because people keep being so against a new mode for some reason, because they're like, it's gonna split the player base, you're gonna have terrible queues on both the normal mode and the new mode, and I'll have to see to believe that. That's the side I'm on. The people were asking for more info on those solo queue improvements that they mentioned. They can't say anything yet. The devs did like a fan-made survivor HUD icon thing, which is basically an idea that people want where you can have a HUD thing that would like tell you as solo survivors like what your teammates are doing, like working on a gen and being chased and all that kind of good stuff. So that's actually something that would be nice for them to add to the game, especially for solos, and that would kind of bridge the gap between survive with friends and solos. Killers don't need to see stuff like that, of course, because that would ruin the whole point, because they can see what the other survivors would be able to see. But something that does need to be shown to the killers, the individual hook states. I'll keep on arguing that because I think that is an issue that I'm right on. Is there going to be an easier way to earn iridescent shards? And they basically said no, because that would be like giving away free stuff, so it has to be tightly controlled, that kind of currency. Then they showed the kill rates, like which map had the highest kill rate, which one had the lowest. So basically most killer sided, quote unquote, and most survivor sided. Surprisingly, Midwich had the highest kill rate. Don't know why. The map kind of sucks for killer as well, because the loops are pretty samey each time the map is generated, but I mean, there's god palettes all over the place, god windows, breakable walls. I really feel that the survivors are throwing on that map and like can't find gens and stuff, and that's why they're dying on that map, not because it favors killers blatantly, because it clearly doesn't. And then on Cowshed, kill rate was the lowest, of course, because that map is just so freaking broken. It's so huge and has so many god loops connected into more god loops. Shack into the basic long pallet loop, into another basic long pallet loop, into a jungle gym, into a hay bale loop. It's just insane, that map. And even the highest kill rate map is only 62.93%, and Cowshed kill rate was 50.72%. So it's not even like killers are consistently getting 3Ks and 4Ks. That's like, it's the dev standard of getting about 2 kills each time, and that's exactly what that is. People wanted to know the ratio of killers and survivors. Ideally it would be 4-to-1, but they say we can't really calculate it because it's always changing. Well, we don't need to know the stats of this very second. Like, that's what they think we're asking for. Do the same thing you did with the killer data. Take a certain beginning date and a certain end date and see which side was playing, or just take a single moment to address that, and just pick any moment and then tell us how many survivors are playing, how many killers are playing, what's the ratio. Like, they're making it so complicated when we're not asking complicated questions. Will Mmr be visible? They have no plans to make Mmr visible because they say it will lead to toxicity. It will freaking not lead to toxicity. That's just something they're making up. Like, oh, you're higher MMR than me? Cool. That's just like when people used to say, I'm rank 1 and you're purple rank, so I'm better than you. And it's like, no, that's playtime and that's dedication, but it's not at all indicative of skill. In matches you see skill, or at least game knowledge. So them saying that it'll lead to some MMR hierarchy where there's a bunch of toxicity and bullying and stuff, that's just freaking false, and we all know why they're making that excuse. It's to hide what we all want to know, which is, am I actually at high MMR, or is the game random? Because if we know what high MMR looks like, then there won't be any hiding from the fact that the game's survivor-sided, and so on. Will they be wrapping up the Realm Beyond little project before the 6th anniversary? They said no. It's taking them freaking forever to remaster all of their maps like Swamp and Haddonfield and stuff like that, even though they've been the same for so long, when a couple other maps have been updated and stuff. They'll say it'll take a little longer than that. Do they have any more weekend experiments planned, like that time that Bloodlust was disabled for a weekend? And they have no plans to do that. They'll just include anything like that on the betas tab. Is there going to be a reworked perk system? No. I don't even know what the person was asking about that for. I think it was like you assign certain points to certain perks and stuff, so that you can't bring full meta. You have to bring like 2 or 3 meta perks and then 1 like crap perk, something like that. I don't even think the game needs that. I think it just needs the perks to be freaking balanced, okay? Is there any option in the future to change lobby backgrounds, which is something I approve of? And they're just like, nope. Because the lobby has to tell the story of what's going on in the game right now or whatever. Which is a completely stupid talking point, because it's a cosmetic thing, and that's one of the only customizable things in this game, so why would you not just let us have it? Any QOL changes for the twins? The twins come up in discussion a lot, they say. They could be worked on after the Legion and Ghostface changes, so no time soon. It'll take a long time, they said. Which is complete crap, because that killer needs changes desperately, like right now. How do you decide what to change and update? And of course, they just, in a glorified way, say that they're looking at stats of millions of matches and stuff. And that's qualitative, and they said no, that's quantitative. For qualitative data, they look at the forums. What a shocker. Because survivors will just complain about the stupidest crap, like barbecue OP, what the heck. And that's the kind of people they actually listen to when they look on the forums. Anything killer related, it's not a problem, they're just complaining. That's basically what they're saying when they say that. Have they ever thought of revisiting a chapter? Everyone would like to see an all-kill map, because they didn't put a map with that. And they don't want to rule anything like that out, but none of it is set in stone. Can they add a search bar for perks? They kind of dodged that question, because they were like looking at the flow, they called it, of searching for killer perks or survivor perks and equipping them, and they just want to make a few improvements, which will be coming out soon on that, but they didn't say anything specific. Is MMR really working if grades are so different? I kind of have to take the sides of the devs here. Grades and MMR are a completely separate thing. It is not the old ranking system, and I cannot believe we're still having this discussion. Grades are based on playtime. They're not based on skill or they're based on the emblem system, or it's a new and improved emblem system. Grades and MMR, they're just not the freaking same. It's like, duh, where have you been? They said when someone DCs from a lobby, though, the speed of getting another person in that lobby is prioritized over a similar MMR person getting put in there. That's why you get those people in matches sometimes where it's like, what is this person doing in my lobby? It's because someone left during the original 4 survivors in the lobby, and they had to replace someone in there really quick. Stuff like that. They're looking to improve that, they said. Is there going to be more BP for killers for facing Survive with Friends? Not really. That's just not something they're looking to do. Is there any plans to do something with the thumbs up feature? Like, at the end of the game, you can report a player for exploits or whatever reason it is, or you can give props to a player. I never really pay attention to that. But they have no plans to change any of that. Have they ever scrapped a perk for being too weak or powerful? The crazier perk ideas and the useless perk ideas usually die early in the design process, they said. Perks usually go through once they reach the playtesting stage. So that's a little bit of insight into their design philosophy. Will there ever be an exposed add-on for Nurse? Whoever wrote this must have been on something, because Nurse does not do that. She does not need that kind of power on top of what she can already do. They jokingly said, like, maybe in the future, but then they said most of the time they don't put exposed add-ons on killers. If you will notice, there are, as they said, not that many exposed add-ons on all the different killers. Will the 1 million BP cap be increased? That is something they say is open for discussion. Good. Should we buff killers who get destroyed by Survive with Friends? The devs just say, but that would make them OP against solo survivors. Not exactly, because if you apply that to every single killer, it's not true. Is the endgame collapse getting reworked? They went on a tangent, it's not supposed to be oppressive, and this is what people always say to me when I say that the in-game collapse should put pressure on the survivors and not just be like, oh, we don't really care about it. Because as long as survivors are able to 99 the gates, they have no pressure on them from the in-game collapse. That's what we're talking about. It's not that we want free kills from the in-game collapse because survivors stayed too long. That hardly ever happens. Yeah, but they said the EGC was designed to stop stalemates because killers could historically stand over the hatch and hold a game hostage. You know, instead of fixing hatch or just designing a better in-game mechanic. And they say that the in-game collapse works great for putting a timer on so that the match cannot be held hostage. No, it does not. Because survivors can 99 gates, as I said. So, in summation of all these changes that the devs talked about and questions they answered, a majority of their answers were don't know, working on it, no plans for that, minimal changes, blah blah blah. That's basically all I gathered from that Q&A of theirs. So for right now, this is Daniel Master 87 signing out.